Okay, so now I'm going to show you how you can import a race from RunSignup into RaceDay Scoring. So this will be the first step, and you can do this at any point. You can do it a week before the race, a month before, whenever you want. There's no harm in doing it ahead of time. You can get started on your setup and finish it off later, not a problem. So when you load up RaceDay Scoring, you'll find yourself on this page here. And there's a few things to take note of. It'll tell you what account you're logged into under, and you can log out here. And this will change which timer account you're currently using. So most people, this would only ever be one timer account. Some people are listed as an owner of multiple accounts. So if you needed to say switch out which account you're going to be using for this session, you can do that right here. Typically, don't have to worry about that. Your serial number is listed here. So the serial number is your RaceDay Suite license. So RaceDay Scoring is a part of the RaceDay Suite, and the license number is how you have access to it. So you pay an annual fee of either $199 or $400 a year in order to have access to all of the products in the RaceDay Suite. That would be RaceDay Scoring, RaceJoy, all of the check-in apps, and everything like that. The version is listed right here. You can click this to view all of the release notes that for the last update, and you can check for updates if you need to. And if an update was available, it would just show as a button right here. You can click the button and it will download the update for you. Now, it'll tell you when you process the update, it'll show you this list of all the release notes, and then you can make a decision at that point. Do I want to install the update, or do I not want to worry about it? Maybe these updates aren't relevant to the race I'm timing this weekend, so you don't have to update at that point. Below that are the main functions of RaceDay Scoring. This is the primary one, managing and scoring races. These ones are setting up this computer as a kiosk that you can use with another scoring system on the same network. So that's a cool feature about RaceDay Scoring. You can set up multiple computers that are running RaceDay Scoring on the same network, and they can be talking to each other and displaying results and used as a data entry kiosk. So today we're just going to go and check out this Manage and Score Races area. This is where you'd see all the races that you've scored on this computer, and you can import races and export them and do all sorts of other things. So when you click this, you can see this section here to load a previous race. These are races that are on this computer that I've scored or I got backups from, and you can see, you can search through them, you can click into them if you wanted to check out the race, if you needed to make adjustments, whatever. You can export the file, you can back up the file to the cloud, and you can renew it.
Now the renew button, that would renew that race for results in RaceDay Scoring?
Yeah, so let's say you've used RaceDay Scoring in the past. So I have an event back here. Let's say if I can find an older one. So this one was in 2023. And let's say the race is actually renewed on RunSignup. I'd scored it in 2023. I got the scoring file all done, all my configuration, spent a lot of time making it perfect. And I don't want to have to redo that setup. The race got renewed at RunSignup, and now what I can do is renew it in RaceDay Scoring, and it will apply all of the same setup that I had done in the previous year's scoring file to the new year's registration data. So today we're just going to show you how to do a import from RunSignup. There's also a way to import from a file if you were exporting from a different computer. You can do that. You can also create a new race completely locally, meaning it's not connected to RunSignup at all. So if you're timing a race that's not using RunSignup, you would use this function here, and you can actually create the race at RunSignup so that you can publish your results to RunSignup and just use RunSignup as a results provider, which is what a lot of people will do if they are working with a race that doesn't use RunSignup. But let's say that you already had the race on RunSignup. You wouldn't want to create it again there. You'd want to import it. So if you go here and click Import, first thing you'll see is this search settings function. This is it's going to filter which races it's going to get to present to you to import. So by default, it just says today until 1 year from now. If for whatever reason you needed to load a previous race that has been in the past, you just have to change that date. Okay, so now it'll show here, select a race from RunSignup. This will list out all these races that I have access to. So maybe I'm listed as the timer for them. Maybe I am the actual race director for them. Maybe I'm given partial access to them. they would all show up right here. So you can see the dates over on the right here. You may want to verify that you're importing the right one. You may not want to be importing a 2025 race, for instance. So let's say I've got this race right here, 428 test, and I want to go ahead and import it. Actually, let's do Scott Coffee. This one will probably have some participant data in it. So when you load it up, we've got all of this stuff here. The first thing you need to do in RaceDay Scoring is go to the sync settings area and save sync settings. This will kickstart the sync process. So now every 30 seconds, participant data is going to go back and forth between RaceDay Scoring and RunSignup. So from this point forward, as changes happen, that data will be showing up in RunSignup automatically. If I make a change here to Bobby Bickle, it would go to RunSignup, and if I made a change on RunSignup, it would come back down here into RaceDay Scoring. So that's really cool. You can see here I've already got my participants, and those will match what's on RunSignup. One really nice feature, there's these RunSignup links if you click the race name here, so you can quickly get to some relevant pages on RunSignup if you needed to quickly view results or go to the dashboard or look at the participants. So you can just click participants here, and it'll bring you right to the participants tab. And you can see I've got 10 participants in RunSignup, and I've also got 10 participants in RaceDay Scoring. So this is all looking pretty good. And that's the basics of importing a race into RaceDay Scoring.
So now how about managing all the races once you have them in RaceDay Scoring?
So there's a few different functions that you can use to manage your race data in RaceDay Scoring. So I have all of these old races that I have scored on this computer. Now, take note, this is all just data that I've actually scored on this computer. As a timer, you may have multiple computers. You may have a fleet of laptops that you send out to different race sites, and you may have a desktop back in the office that you do all of your setups on. Well, how do you manage that data between your setup computer and all of your execution computers, all of the races that are getting put in backpacks and sent out to race sites? So there's a couple of different ways to do it. Our primary way is this backup to cloud function. So let's say I have got my Scott Coffee race, and I've done some setup. I'm just going to quickly do a quick setup here and just save this. So I've got my scored event set up, let's say. I have no idea if this is right, but let's say I'm done and this is ready to be timed, ready to be scored. Now I'm not going to score it on this laptop. I'm actually going to give it to someone else. So there's a few different things you could do. You could export this data to a file. It creates a little zip file with the name of the race. You could put it on a flash drive or email it to whoever is going to be using it on site, and they can import that file. That's kind of the old school way to do it. The new school way to do it is to use these little backup to cloud buttons up here. So what you could do is say, I'm going to now create backup. When I do this, I'm going to say, this is my final pre-race scoring setup. So this is ready to go. So now this is pushed up to the cloud. What that means is that if someone else using RaceDay Scoring who's connected to the same timer account as me imported this race, they would see that Matt Avery created a backup called pre-race final scoring file, and they could restore from that point. So let's take a look at what that would look like if I were on a different computer. So once you create a race backup and you try to change races or exit RaceDay Scoring, it'll give you this message. It says, hey, do you want to create a backup? So this is nice. Let's say your timer on site, they exit out of RaceDay Scoring without creating a final backup. It'll prompt them, say, hey, do you want to create a backup before you leave? And then say, oh yeah, sure, I'll create a backup. This is nice because then you can make sure all of your scoring data is up to date after the race is completed as well. For now, I'm going to say no. So now let's go back to our manage races, and I'm going to delete this file. So it's totally fine to delete data in RaceDay Scoring or the scoring files themselves. I've already backed this up, so I don't really need it. I can always get it back from the cloud if I need to. So let's say I'm on a totally different computer. I didn't import that race at all. So let's do that same process I did before, and you'll see what's different. I go ahead and I'm going to import a race from RunSignup. I'm going to select the Scott Coffee race. And now it's going to say, hey, I see that there's a backup out there. It was created by Matt Avery, and it's called Final Pre-Race Scoring Setup. So this will list out all the different backup versions that I have, and it'll give you the date and timestamp. So if you ever need to go back or revert to a different version of the race, you could do that right here. Or you're setting up your scoring laptops for the weekend. All you have to do is come in and just say import, and then you have the full setup ready to go. You can also download it if you needed to get a copy of the data for whatever reason for your archival purposes. You could do that. But if I click import here, this will do the import, but it's going to have that setup that I did before. So that scored event setup is now completed. So that's one major use of the backup to cloud functionality. The other major use is as you're actually executing the race, you're scoring the race, you are pulling in the read data, and you're publishing results to RunSignup. You may want to push backups as you are scoring it, so you can say this is during the race, mid-race, this is halfway through, this is final finisher coming through, this is reports complete, and things like this. So you have these little timestamps throughout the day. This is just really nice so that you can have the ability to have these restore points. If you ever needed to go back in time, you could do that here. Now, let's say someone, you had an issue with your scoring file, something was up, and you needed someone on your team to take a second look at it. Well, they could go on their end and actually import a backup of this race from RunSignup right here within the session. So they could say, okay, I'm going to take a look and see what they're doing. Matt, he texted me. He said that he's got an issue. Could I take a look? So I'm going to take a look, and I'm going to do a full import in this case. And let's say, oh, I see your problem. You've got the distance set to 8 kilometers. It should be 8 miles or whatever. So I'm going to say that's, my update that I'm going to do. And I'm going to say, fix for Matt. And then that person in the field, as they are actually scoring the race, they could come in and say, I'm going to check for a fix that was done by my person back in the office. And they could import that. And if they do this setup only, it will overlay just the setup part. So let's say, I'm actually scoring the race. There's reads coming in. People are crossing the finish line and so on. I don't want to overwrite all of that read data that came in the meantime. I just want to get the setup. So this function will basically say, okay, make sure I get all the right segments and groups lined up and everything, but I'm only going to apply the setup changes that came in. So you'll see here that I've got 8 miles instead of 8 kilometers. So that's the use case for backup to cloud and restore from cloud. So that's our primary recommendation for managing your scoring data for both, archival purposes. So you need to make sure you have all of your final data scoring files in one central location, as well as dealing with situations on site where you may need to make fixes or have someone take a look at your setup. You can do that right through here. So I mentioned before, you can also export data manually right here, and this will let us create a zip file. If you wanted to go that route, you could. We really don't find it necessary to do this unless for some reason you really need to have a file. If you don't have internet access, you couldn't do a cloud backup, obviously. So that's what you'd use that for.
And what information is being exported there? Is that the results or the setup?
It's the whole setup. So it's the configuration of the race itself. So if you export to a file, it's just like importing the race from RunSignup and starting from a restore point. It's the whole thing.
And then when you export that, is that what the import race from file is?
That's right, yeah. So you can export races from here, and then on another computer, you could import them right here.